G'day guys, welcome back to another episode of Level Up. We are in a different location today because if you live in Brisbane or southeast Queensland, I don't even know what the date is today. I think it's the 26th of November. But man, are we getting hammered this week. The weather has been hot as anything. We're getting storms every afternoon. So we decided to move up into the house and into the air conditioning instead of sitting down in the shed. But yeah, look, as always, the life in a builder is always exciting. There's a lot going on. We have had some incredible storms this week. One storm from Monday afternoon. At this stage, looks like it's caused about $160,000 worth of damage across 3 of our sites. So not something I wanted to be dealing with 3 weeks or 4 weeks away from Christmas. And one of those projects is 3 weeks away from handover. So that's just what we deal with as builders every day of the week. So look, today's podcast is going to be an absolute cracker. We've actually got him back. This is his second podcast with Level Up because we see so much value in the product that they sell, in the information that they put out there, and the knowledge that can be gained from having conversations like we're going to have today. So massive, big, warm welcome to Nick from Highwood Products, who is one of the sponsors of this podcast and is the reason we can bring this podcast to you. So how are you, buddy?
Very well. It's great to be back. It's also great to be out of the heat, so I appreciate you taking us in here. But yeah, you're going really well. Thanks for having me back on.
Mate, you're it hasn't been that long since the last time you were on, but man, you're gaining some traction.
Definitely. It's a couple of things that are probably driving that.
This podcast?
Of course. But and I think it's like we said last time, the whole sort of condensation, cavity ventilation, high performance home space. It's a growing topic and people are starting to take it seriously, which is great to see.
Yeah.
So our product range is like a small component of that, an important component of that system, but a small component nonetheless. But I think people are starting to take their whole of house sort of and the performance of their home seriously, which is awesome. So
it's definitely getting spoken about more and more.
Yes.
But, I guess to give everyone a little bit of a brief before you run off and think that we're just going to talk about cavity battens and stuff for an entire podcast. This is a really valuable podcast, especially if you're a builder. We're going to cover a lot of things today, especially the changes coming into the building code. Mold, moisture, condensation, all those types of things. So make sure you hang around. But mate, we've actually been catching up quite a bit lately. Like only not quite 2 weeks ago, you come down, Live Life Build, my training business.
Yep.
Put on a session down in Adelaide.
Yep.
Which again, thanks very much for being a sponsor of that event. So we had yourself, we had the guys from Climashore on board as well.
Yep.
But mate, tell us a little bit about, before we get into that, what it was. Tell us your thoughts on the day.
Look, I thought it was great. I think probably the thing that stood out to me the most was just the general sort of investment from those who were attending, investment in the sort of quality of the project and the work that they're doing, and also investment in their businesses. You know, taking that next step and seeking better practice. I think for me personally, that was really just uplifting to be part of. So I thought that was a great testament to what you guys have sort of created, but. Also really good to see. It sort of it gives you hope that as an industry we're moving forward.
Yeah.
And an inspiring group of people who are all sort of trying to push the boundaries in their own businesses to do that. So that was really great. And then also we obviously had experts, certainly experts from ProClimber and representatives of the product and whatnot that again were they're on the sort of cutting edge of what what best practice looks like. So that was awesome. To be a part of that was really, like I said, inspiring and an honour to be there. First time to Adelaide, so got a bit of probably not as much of a chance to explore as I would have liked. So next time it'll definitely be longer and definitely have a bit more of a look around. But it's a beautiful place and certainly somewhere I want to get back to as soon as possible. So
mate, it was a cracking day. So for the listeners, people listening. Live Like Build puts on training events for not just our own members, but we do open it up to just all builders so they can come along and gain knowledge and experience on those days. But it did blow me away. So we obviously had a heap of current Live Like Build members there, but we did open it up and I think we had just over 20 builders that have never had anything to do with Live Like Build. And to me, that was so inspiring because we had a guy that up here in Queensland from Toowoomba or Warwick or somewhere was up at 2:30 in the morning, drove to the airport, flew to Adelaide, come to our lunch and afternoon function.
Yeah.
Like, I think he left down there about 5:30, flew back to Brisbane, drove back home. I called him the week afterwards because I just touched base with everybody. And he was telling me he got home at 1:30 on the Saturday morning.
Yeah.
So, like, to see, and we had other guys flying in from Rocky, like all parts Sydney. So to see builders putting in that effort to come along and educate themselves is definitely inspiring.
Yeah, and I think you touch on location. I think, regardless of where you live or where you build, building better is important, irrespective of your sort of geographic location. So I think it's awesome, and I was it was really good to be a part of it. I think it might be the first time ever that a cavity wall was built inside inside a restaurant venue or inside a. So there you go. So maybe a set of firsts, but yeah, it was really good. Really good.
I wasn't sure how that was going to go, but I'm so glad we did it. And the feedback from the day has been like that was a big part that pulled it all together. And look, you and I are already talking about some possibilities for next year, and the guys from ProClimber to do some education around this. I think the big difference from the event that we put on compared to some of the other events that I've been to in the industry, talking about code changes, as builders and tradies, like we're very visual, practical people.
Yes.
So like going to a seminar and sitting in a room where someone's talking about code and clauses and this type of thing is very unrelatable.
Yes.
And 9 times out of 10, you're sitting there trying to keep your eyes open from going to sleep. And I didn't want that. So it was really awesome to reach out to one of our local members down there in Adelaide, Luke and the team from Saxony Building. Like, if you're in Adelaide and you need a builder, reach out to those guys. They're fantastic. But, they knocked up some wall frames and then we had to bloody carry them up the fire escape to the 6th level and, set them all up. But you could see, like, everyone there, we had ProClimber doing some theory-based stuff. Villy from ProClimber was fantastic. It's the first time I've met Villy in person, and, man, his knowledge and the way that he communicates it is awesome.
Absolutely.
Obviously had you there talking about what's happened over in New Zealand and then your product. Actually had one of my supervisors, Brett, there to talk about like our experience in our building business and what we've learned over the last few years. And then I spoke about some of the costings and, again, some of the stuff we've been learning by actually doing and like installing the wraps and the battens and everything on site. But then at the end, Stewie from Shelton Group, sheeted the wall in ProClimber, put the tapes on, did the sills. We installed a window.
Yeah, I was going to say the window is definitely a nice touch. That was an unexpected addition, but it was great. Yeah, to see it all sort of practically coming together was perfect. Yeah,
and then to be able to be there and put your batten on the wall and physically show people some of the two of the builders I've reached out to get feedback. Having those conversations, because when that practical side of it started and I told everybody to get up the front of the room there and get involved, the conversations that sparked by people seeing what was happening and asking questions and things, and a lot of the feedback's been around with your batten, like the internal and external corner, updating their architects and designers about offsets from boundaries and things, because obviously you're adding the extra widths to the building.
Yes.
People just until they'd seen it,
exactly,
it hadn't really they didn't comprehend it. So
yes,
it was an incredibly valuable day. But all right, guys, I want to introduce you to a really exciting new product that I believe is going to play a massive role in Australia building healthier homes. As you all know, I am extremely passionate about healthy homes, and I'm doing a lot of research and putting a lot of time and effort into making sure my construction business is leading the way when it comes to building healthy homes here in Australia. We've teamed up with the guys from Highwood Timber. Highwood Timber are pioneering condensation management with their high-flow ventilated LVL batten system. High-flow battens give builders a stronger, straighter and smarter way to create a ventilated cavity behind cladding and underneath roofs without compromising on structural performance. While tackling condensation to improve building health and ease of installation, Highwood battens are built to perform. When it comes to dealing with condensation and ventilation, high flow battens will help you create continuous ventilated cavities behind all your cladding and underneath your roof sheeting. They reduce condensation risk and support healthier, longer lasting buildings. Highwood timber battens are also in alignment with the proposed NCC condensation management requirements as well as passive house ventilation requirements. Being an engineered LVL product, they are stronger, straighter, and more dimensionally stable than a solid material such as pine. This helps resist warping, twisting, and shrinkage, ensuring more consistent installs, less prone to splitting than solid timber. Highwood timber battens are precisely manufactured, meaning that your installation will be faster and easier than other products on the market. The part that I like the most about these battens are they are H3 treated for long-term protection against decay and termites. They use a waterborne H3 treatment which reduces reactivity with membranes and adhesives when compared to LOSP. These are the exact battens that you want to be using on your homes and your builds if you are considering building healthier homes or passive homes. Check them out, Highwood Timber Products. To move on from that, one of the main reasons you're back here, mate, is to talk to us about these code changes. So run us through what's going on.
Sure. So there's been, and I think we might have touched on it in the last episode, but there's been a lot of, obviously, talk around the NCC and what the changes may or may not be coming over the next sort of 3 to 5 years. We've been talking about condensation for quite some time, but the NCC change that we're mostly focusing on is the implementation of drained vented cavities plus vapor permeable membranes in NCC 2025. So that code has been proposed for about a year and a half at this point. Which is specifically aimed at the southern climate. So it's climate zone 6, 7, and 8. Now, I'm sure that you'd probably possibly make available the Building Codes Board have got a map that essentially shows where that is on a map of Australia, but it really sort of starts to take effect in New South Wales. It's cooler, temperate climates that basically expand as you get further south, but a lot of New South Wales is affected. There may be some parts of Queensland that are initially affected, certainly all of Victoria or a very large portion of Victoria, Melbourne and Tasmania, and then the southern part of Western Australia. Those code changes have been sitting in as proposed, like I said, for quite some time, but in the last month, so I think it was October 22nd, the Treasury released formal dates around when those will be rolled out. So there is talk, and the Building Codes Board have confirmed that the NCC post rollout of NCC 2025 will be paused until 2029. But 2020.
So what's that mean?
From the implementation of NCC 2025, which has been proposed and now announced, all further changes are paused until mid 2029. That's the current sort of wording around that. With the 2025 mandate. It's due to be released publicly on the 1st of February next year, so 1st of February 2026. And then with earliest adoption at a state level from the 1st of May 2026. So the codes, the changes that have sort of been proposed for a while are now firm. Condensation management is included in that. So this is the residential building code. And I suppose the earliest that we would actually see that start to roll out at a state level would be May in 2026. So I think probably the main message is that it's here. Those changes are firm, and condensation is now something that's not only proposed, but it is something that will be a firm mandate in new homes from whenever your state jurisdiction decides to implement those changes. So it's a significant change for the industry. Going to a cavity ventilation, though, you touched on all the things around architectural detail, corners, setbacks from walls, cavity depth, windows, all of those sort of design considerations are now something that I would probably be advocating for builders to be taking into consideration now. Whilst it might take a little while for the your state to start actually implementing those changes, I think now is the time for proactivity and getting on the front foot as far as incorporating them into planning.
So there's a lot to unpack there.
Yep.
Firstly, let's talk about the zoning.
Yep. So the way that they break down the climate zones is to do with condensation risk. But just in terms of a simple explanation of it, basically, as you get cooler, the risk of condensation forming inside the home and condensing on the inside of your envelope is increased. So hot, humid air from inside the homes, be it from showering, from breathing is actually a big one, cooking, washing, drying, anything that produces moisture vapor into the air, that as you have an increasingly cold external environment, the risk of that is exacerbated. It's basically, the colder you get, the higher the risk of condensation. That's sort of how we've broken it down. Australia's broken into 8 climate zones. We've got 1 through 8, but the ones that are incorporated in this are 6, 7, and 8. So it's really the south for the most part.
It's quite. You touched on it before we started recording. Like it's a little bit of a grey area about how these areas are. Like you look at the full map of Australia and you think, oh yeah, I'm not in that area.
Yeah.
But like if you actually zoom in on those maps, like
yeah, it's right. So it's so I'll probably split that into 2 things. So there's a mandate conversation, and then there's a best practice conversation. So if we're getting granular, the climate zones do have defined boundaries. So I'll use Sydney as an example. There are sort of close to the coast. Some of the Sydney sort of area is I think it's climate zone 5, so it borders on climate zone 6, but becomes climate zone 6 as you become slightly inland. Obviously, those areas will share a lot of crossover climate-wise. So I think
does the border follow a main road or like
no, exactly. So look, obviously you'll have a very similar climate in coastal as you will inland. I think we said that the clouds don't know where to stop, or the weather doesn't follow a main road to follow that area. But the way that it's drawn, the way that it is organised is postcode. So you can log into the Building Codes Board website, search your postcode, and it will tell you what climate zone you're in and what sort of condensation risk.
Oh, true. I actually didn't know that, so I've learned something today.
Yeah, so you can determine your climate zone using that tool. You can search. It's newly interactive. So when I first started looking into this, it was not, but now it is. Yeah. So that's been a pretty good upgrade. So you can sort of just log in and find out where your suburb is, or where your new project is going to be, what climate zone it's going to be. And I do believe that as part of the new NCC as well, they're talking about some AI integration to make the whole process easier to understand. So to navigate the NCC as well, because as anyone who's in I'm sure it's difficult. There's a lot to it. So anyway, they could sort of streamline that, would be great as well. So
yeah, I just think this whole conversation is fascinating. Like the way that they put borders on different zones, and even the way they come up with the zones. And like I know today the focus is on these rule changes and the benefits of cavity systems and all those types of things. But I think one of the big conversations which come up a little bit in Adelaide the other day, personally I think the cavity batten system is as important, or if not more important, in a warmer climate. Because there's so much talk about colder climates, and obviously you're cold outside, you're warm air inside, so you've got that condensation, those dew points in different areas. But like where we are here, like when you're in a hot, humid climate, like today's a perfect example. Like we've come away from the shed up to the house here because we're sitting in the house, as the aircon's on, it's whatever it is, 24 degrees.
Yep.
And I don't know what today's going to top out at 36 or 37 or something outside.
Yes.
So we've got the opposite thing happening.
Correct.
Like, so up here you've got hundreds of thousands of homes cranking their air conditioning, and we don't, like today's very unusual. Like we do not run our air conditioning very often.
Yes.
But you've literally got hundreds of thousands of homes in hotter climates that are cranking their air conditioning, putting huge loads on the power system. And then like you can touch the window and it's warm on the outside, and you got that condensation issue happening there.
Exactly. So it's so what we were sort of saying before around there's the code conversation, and then there's the best practice conversation. You're exactly right. It's the exact opposite issue in a humid climate like we're in. Today is a great example, actually. I think probably the best example we could have hoped for. It's
Yeah.
like a cold can of soft drink on a hot, humid day. That is the exact same phenomenon that will be happening on the outside of this house.
Yeah, so our well, I assume like our walls would be sweating.
Yes.
Like inside the walls.
Yes. Now, look, I believe at some stage that this will be adopted across the board. While the focus is on the cooler climates now, it's not to say that condensation is not at all a risk in other climate zones. Quite the contrary, to some extent. But in terms of what is absolutely pertinent to this code change, we're talking about the sort of the southern states as what will very soon become something that is a non-negotiable and something that will be, start to come into certification. It'll definitely start to come into the sort of design phase because, as you said, there's some real considerations around a vented cavity, which otherwise until now haven't necessarily been required.
Mate, it makes so much sense. Like the more we do it, like even just one of our recent or current jobs, which you're coming out to in a week or two.
Yep.
It just makes so much sense. Like when you're doing it, like we're having a team meeting with our team tomorrow to run through some new details and stuff that I've come up with for around Sophites and whatever. But like we're really big on that constant education, and we got an incredible team. Like my two supervisors are great. It's been really like our lead carpenters are great. We got one of our team lead carpenters is from New Zealand. He's been with us probably, I don't know, maybe 18 months now.
Okay.
So he's seen what happened over there. So being able to have these conversations, get input from him. But seeing my own team get more invested in this, the more that I educate them, and then they're going away watching YouTube, watching Matt Risinger, watching these videos, learning, and then being able to educate our new apprentices so that they can carry on with this once they finish their time and those types of things. But I think there's two really important things that people should take away from today's podcast is, number one, like changes to the building code are important. And then number two is best practice. Like like builders should always be aiming for best practice.
Yes.
Like whether it's in code or not.
Yes.
And just to touch on, like for anyone that follows me on Instagram, like Nick and I have been having a few conversations since we've sort of been hooking up about these Battens, and Nick sent me an email about these code changes, and I read it, and I did a story on my Instagram, and I think as of today it's had just under 80,000 views and quite a lot of comments, and it's quite an even split in the comments, and it's like we talked about it earlier, like I do the odd post to sort of put some bait out there and see what sort of bites I get. So, and it can be pretty interesting at times, especially my more recent one about electric cars. It's been awesome. But it's really funny to see, like you've got this one group of people that are commenting saying about time, like this is great, like about time Australia caught up with other countries around the world, or I've been doing this for a long time. Like, so you've got those positive people, but then you've still got this bunch of builders that don't know what they don't know, are continuing to do things the way they've been taught, aren't doing further education. And it really surprised me the amount of comments from people saying just something else that won't get enforced, or just something else that's going to add to the cost of building. Like all these negative comments. And look, you're always going to have two sides to everything. But I think the reality is with these changes that we're talking about, with the ProClimate products, with your Battens, it's a no-brainer. Like if you put a little bit of time into understanding, like I failed science at school. I'm definitely not a science person. I don't know a lot of things if you ask some of the people that comment on my electric car video, but it's a no-brainer. Like once you get a little bit of a taste of it, like it's very easy to just keep learning more about it, because it, just like the beer scenario. I think that's why the Adelaide event was another reason it was so good. Like the way Billy explained it using beer, like condensation on beer. Like he used a cold climate version and a warm climate version, and it's just, I don't know.
It makes sense.
Makes sense, yeah.
The one thing I'd a couple of things on that. The code changing is an absolutely a good thing, and it's a necessary step for us to continue to move forward as an industry. There is, around moisture management, there is a global conversation there. But certainly in Australia, the thing that probably is relevant is that the expectation of the builder has also grown immensely. So now more so than ever, there's more pressure, more exposure, and more risk, and more legal liability on builders than ever, right? So there's a lot of things that you have to consider in a building project, which has changed, over time. It's that more so than ever is a lot of that rests with the builder. I heard the cavity batten system, and I can't claim credit for this, but I heard the cavity batten system described as the cheapest insurance policy you're going to get on a home. I really like that as a concept because, relatively speaking, relative to a lot of other systems, a ventilated wall cavity system, and we talk about walls and roofs, but a ventilated wall cavity system to upgrade to that, or do air quotes, to upgrade, but to implement that relative to the risk reduction that you would achieve from having something like that in place is a really good way to sort of protect against some of certainly moisture related risk that comes with building. And moisture obviously can come from multiple ways. So if for whatever reason there is some ingress, to have a drained sort of rain screen system where you've got a membrane that will dissipate some moisture as a second line of defense, on top of also managing your condensation coming from inside the home, that's a good way to insure yourself against risk. So, and I think that's probably something I'd certainly wanted to say is that's and that is ultimately a responsibility that will fall onto the builder to handle.
Well, just on that, mate, like for builders, or I guess for any trades possibly listening to this, but definitely for builders, like something that's become very apparent in the last few years with a lot of weather events that we've been having. Like obviously there's a lot of insurance claims and things happening, but building claims are huge.
Yes.
And so insurance companies are, I guess, always looking for ways to not pay out. But we've been involved with a couple where we've had to do rectification work on other homes from other builders that haven't done it correctly. But I think for something for builders to be aware of, if you're not, if you build, it doesn't matter whether you build the house for a client or that client sells it and moves on, but the way the insurance companies are working now, like if there's a claim on a building and the homeowner puts in a claim and the assessor comes out, the first thing that they do now is assess or look up when the house was built, what year the house was built, and whether the damage or whatever's causing the claim, whether it was built to code at the time. And there's quite a few builders getting stung with this, and that, like people think that, like builders, a lot of builders think that it's just like whatever it is, 6 years, 6 months, or depending on where you are. Most of Australia is 6 years, 6 months or 3 months, something. But like there's builders that have been finished jobs for 15, 16, 20 years. Like there's been builders in retirement that have been sent bankrupt in retirement because those insurance companies gone after them because they basically said, look, it's your fault. Like so as builders, like we have responsibility. Like if it's in building code, and look, this subject makes me very nervous because I'm the first one to put my hand up. Like I don't know everything. We try and do best practice. We try and build above and beyond. But mate, you've seen the building codes. Like there's a lot of stuff in there.
Yes, there is.
And yeah, there possibly could be things in the future that might go wrong that I just am unaware that I haven't done to code.
Yep.
But it is something that all builders need to take more seriously, and especially now, like with these changes, like mould is now referenced in the building code from the last lot of changes, and now with these changes coming in, condensation is now referenced in the building code.
Yes.
So it's serious stuff. Like if you're a builder, you have to take this seriously, because if you're not building your clients a product that is dealing with mould and condensation, you are liable.
I think the we might have touched on it briefly in the last episode, but you said it well. The sort of the building code, particularly in the last few iterations, has really started to walk into the livability and the sort of like health and safety, health and amenity. Those sort of topics are becoming ever present in our building code now. Whereas, historically, much more sort of more your hardline stuff around structure and those sorts of things. So I completely agree. And there is a lot of education about it that, and a lot of new things that are sort of coming in rapid fire. But sort of to round off what I was saying before about the legal side of it, I think that the Building Codes Board taking a step towards what is an internationally sort of growing movement towards off wall building is really good, because it takes a little bit of the guesswork out of it to a certain extent. It makes it something that we as a country acknowledge is a risk and is something that we want to take action against. So I think that's an important step for us to make as an industry. Obviously, there's and certainly a lot of the people we chatted with down in Adelaide are sort of along that journey. But I personally feel quite happy that as a topic has been introduced to our code.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan. I think it's now that I understand it and I know more about it. And look, I learnt more even just from listening to Villy and yourself down in Adelaide the other week. So, like, one thing I can't stress enough to, I guess, everyone listening, like, doesn't matter what trade you are, builder, even, I guess, contractors, suppliers and things, like, the more our industry collaborates and shares lived experiences and knowledge from, like, we learn so much from doing renovation work. And so having those conversations and, like, even on the Thursday night before that event, myself, you, Stewie, Brett and Shay, like, just that conversation that we had around the dinner table, though, I don't know if Shay was really interested in talking about cavity battens, but
Fair enough.
But yeah, like, even that, having dinner for that couple of hours and the conversations that were had there, like, there was a few things that I know myself and even my supervisor Brett took some notes, and we've had some conversations since, that if that collaboration, those conversations aren't being had, we can't continue to improve things.
Yes.
But none of us know everything. And one thing that's really impressed me since I met you, Nick, and the product that you have, is your willingness to come out to site, to actually physically see what we're dealing with on site, understand how we do things on site. Like, to me, that's something that a lot of manufacturers just miss. Like, they think they can solve it all sitting at a table with a pen and a piece of paper, and because that makes a big difference.
Yes. Oh, I appreciate that. It's I agree. I mean, we're only as good as how it is used in practice, and if we're not actively spending time to try and refine that, what are we doing?
Yeah.
I think that's it's super important. Something we'll always try and do is stay very close to as it is being used in the real world, because exactly as you say, it's all well and good to have an idea, but people have to use it, and people and people have got to also it's also something that we want to understand, if there's problems with it, what are they? How do we fix them? Yeah. So we're always committed to that, and definitely something that we will stay committed to.
Yeah. So, mate, what's something else listeners should know about these changes that are coming up, or what's your advice for them if they're not on board with it? I guess maybe
a couple. So I'd probably I'd do a few things. So design is definitely one of them. We covered sort of the legal side of it. But also, I think I do want to reiterate that this is not just it's not a new thing. It's not necessarily a new concept as far as the world construction industry is concerned. And I do believe that this is Australia looking sort of staying in line with a trend that is happening outside of our borders. So we mentioned New Zealand at the event. New Zealand for listeners that were not at the event, New Zealand was sort of the focus of our case study, and we did touch on it in the last podcast. But
I think at the event you put a dollar value on it. What was it?
It's billions. So the rectification,
59 or 56 billion or something.
I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but it is enormous. The rectification cost from essentially moisture ingress and then moisture entrapment issues not being managed costs an absolutely extraordinary amount.
Yeah.
But it also drove a really great amount of innovation. So a lot of, but look, similar conversation in Canada. Yeah, I read something recently, and Canada had and certainly some of the conversations having in Canada, people almost had a virtually identical overhaul of their code with a very similar sort of set of circumstances as New Zealand, which is basically moisture coming into the buildings, then the buildings becoming too airtight, moisture being trapped and causing mold and rot. That concept is not unique to Australia. It's not unique. It is a world phenomenon that is something which is more of a physics conversation than it is, and a science conversation than it is a location conversation. So that's probably, I think it's important to note because, and I do think that the fact that our code is acknowledging that is important. But that is Australia moving in step with the rest of the world. That is probably the first thing I'd like to say.
Playing catch up.
Yeah, perhaps to a certain extent, but it is. Look, various parts of the world call it different things. In America, they call it a rain screen, but the concept is exactly the same. It's having separation from your cladding system to your frame, and a clear passage of air and water to drain that area. That concept exists. It exists in passive house. It exists in a lot of European construction, Canadian construction, and like I said, the US. So
passive house has really adopted it for a long time, and you can even see that here in Australia. There's a lot of passive homes getting built down in Tasmania and Melbourne, in those colder climates, but even non-passive homes, that seems to have been adopted. This whole cavity system seems to have been adopted years ago down there. That's where I first got introduced to it, was from a lot of homes a lot of builders that I was following down that way, and I started getting curious about what it was for and all those types of things. But it's funny how even in one country we have got all these different things going on.
Yes, which and look, it works. I think that's probably the fundamental principle, is that the ventilation of a cavity works. It works with brick veneer, and it works with lightweight framing and lightweight cladding. That concept is well documented and well studied around the world. So that's passive house. Obviously, they're very that's a major part of the passive house process. But it works. It simply works.
It's literally just clicked while you were talking then. Most of the homes that I built when I was apprentice in my early career had a lot of brickwork.
Yeah. And
so brickwork has always had a cavity.
Yeah.
Generally 40 mil or bigger.
Yes.
And even now, just hearing you say that, so many of the homes that we've done renovation work on, even older ones that had no building paper on them.
Yes.
Because back in the day, they just put brick ties on the frame and put the bricks up. There was no building paper.
Yep.
Those jobs don't have
mold.
Mold.
Yeah.
Because we touched on this a little bit in Adelaide. We've created the problem, and as usual, we're chasing our tail, because now we're trying to come up with solutions for it. But with a brick cavity building, you've got that cavity so it breathes, and then with a lot of older homes where you're using timber weatherboards, especially the old hardwood ones, they were able to breathe because a lot of the time the weatherboards were slightly different shapes. There's little gaps here and there, and it just had air movement.
Yes,
and then with that, the better the products have gotten better, the claddings that we use have gotten better, the windows we've used have gotten better, and without sort of knowing it, we've created this problem that if you're not putting any time into understanding what's happening, you don't really know how to solve it.
Yeah, it's kind of condensation. There's two parts to that. I mean, the rain. If we talk about the rain screen, that also is allowing for the fact that we've got, in the last however many years, the cladding systems have become more sort of porous and whatnot, and some allow some ingress. I mean, some cladding systems actually are open joint, and they just allow water through.
Well, but that's why bricks originally had a cavity.
Yeah,
because brick's porous.
Yes.
So moisture got through the brickwork. You have to have a cavity for that moisture to.
Exactly right.
So they knew this. They knew this stuff back like 60 years ago.
Yeah, but it's kind of the condensation component is kind of the unintended consequence of making more energy efficient buildings, which is also a really good thing. We obviously want to consume less energy. The cost of electricity is rising. People want to be spending less on heating and cooling their homes, absolutely. But the sort of like you said, the unintended consequence of that is, you end up with airtight homes that end up with mold. So it's so that was probably the first thing. Is this is a worldwide phenomenon which there are plenty of different ways and innovations that people around the world are managing the same problem, and it's excellent that our code is starting to take it seriously and has written something in about that. So I think that's excellent. Design is something that's very important. So it's coming, and certainly if you're in the south, it's coming to your climate zone. Design for this, and Duayne, as starting to implement this into your homes, you'd understand that there is a lot, and you're doing a lot in terms of educating and making all that sort of information public to your audience, which is excellent. But there is design consideration around what a cavity looks like. It's setback from boundary, it's windows, it's window detail, doors, all the sort of things where you've got a junction from a cavity to an existing part of your home. You have to consider that. And look, I think the earlier that people can start to have conversations with their architects, maybe start to educate your clients about the fact that, this is something that will start to be normal. The earlier that's built into the design, I think the better, because it's less rework. Because certainly if you haven't allowed for it, it can be a problematic.
Oh, mate, design's so important. And again, that's one big thing that came out of the event the other Friday. Like when people physically saw it, and like I held those battens on corners and things, like, because when you just say, hey, it's a cavity batten system, you got to put battens on the wall, like it's just rattles off your tongue. You don't really think too much of it. But we've done it so much over the last sort of 3 to 4 years. Starting to get some rumbling. 4 days in a row, mate. We're going to get a massive storm by the sounds of it. But,
yep.
And I touched on this in Adelaide. So when we started really getting onto this and doing it, we've used all types of battens over the last few years. We've used the polystyrene ones. We've used the treated 20 mil reeded decking. We've just tried using treated framing timber, like all different types of things. A lot of the builders down in Melbourne that I've spoke to years ago when we were getting onto this, they put me onto the most economical one we got up with Jay put me onto was buying the 90 by 19 reeded treated decking and then ripping it down the middle, so you end up with like a 42 mil batten, putting it on 19 mil, so you end up with a 19 mil cavity. Because I think the cavity is there's another part to that as well. Like a lot of people talk about the different depth of the cavity and that 12 mil's great, 19 mil's really good, but obviously your 35 is even better. Mate, doing everything that we've done and what we've learned over the last few years, there's no way we're going back to a 19 mil batten. Your product it's so much stronger. But I guess just to educate the people that are listening and maybe builders that are wanting to get into this, start doing this, we've just found there's so many things that just build up. So when you start putting your wraps on the wall and then you've got to use the tapes, and especially where you go around windows and things, so you could end up with your possible multiple laps of your building WRB, and then you might have the Proclima sill tape on there so it's thicker, and then you might have some flashings around your windows that you got to put tape over. So every sort of millimetre is building up and up and up. And on our jobs, we we go to a great lengths to straighten and plane and get everything nice and flat on our wall frames. And then we found with the 19mm batten, we'd start putting the battens on, and like all these laps in the paper would start bowing the battens. And like with a 19mm batten, it doesn't give you a lot of guts if you start planing the back out of it, and because it's near impossible. And that's where it got time consuming, because it's near impossible to plane the face. Once you fix it on, you've got to worry about nails and all types of things. But that's been, well, we're seeing it now. We've only used it a very small amount. We've just had the first full job delivered of your product.
Yep.
But yeah, having 35mm, like you can just see, like we could plane 5mm out of that, and it'd still be super strong and get us a nice, neat finish. So I'm not sure what you think about that, because it probably degrades the structural requirements of it. But just all those little things that until you start doing this system, and I guess to touch on that, by doing it and being in those situations where certain and so where we're really coming unstuck with that was where there was multiple windows close together. Like if you had a steel post and the windows were tight and you're trying to get all these different things to lap. So now that we're aware of that, we can actually talk to the designers, and like maybe instead of trying to clad between windows, we get them as tight as we can together, and then we put a colour-coded aluminium flashing over the outside so it actually looks like the window's one big piece. So we're not trying to, like, so like you said, like talking to your designers about what they're putting on paper, everything has this flow-on effect.
Yep.
And then on the designer, or talking about design and the architect and things, we actually had a 2-hour meeting with one of our designers on one of our projects this morning, because we've been doing lots of talking about this, and he comes out at different stages on the job, but we actually got him out there this morning before we start putting your battens on the job to talk about all this, like show him what's going to happen in internal, external corners, show him how the closer goes on the bottom and where it butts into windows and doors and all these types of things. So now he's going to go away and work with us. So we've given him a heap of sketches that we've done, so that we can start. Because ultimately, I want to have a standard set of details, so my team's not reinventing things all the time.
Yep.
Because obviously that just adds efficiency, and I believe the more, because for me that was something, like it's cost me a lot of money the last 3 years to learn how to do this system to the standard that I wanted at in my business.
Yes.
So if we can get that knowledge now onto paper, so that the boys turn up to site, there's a set of documents, and we know exactly what has to happen at an internal corner, external corner, above a window, below a window, up over a roof. Like, so yeah, design's definitely something that needs to be taken into consideration. So yeah, like we said, this is a no-brainer. Like this is coming in whether you're in climate zone 6, 7, 8, or whether you just want to do it for best practice.
Yep.
Like you've got to know the cost of this stuff. You've got to know the best products to use. You've got to talk to your designer about the width of buildings and things. So
yep,
it's like I wanted to get you back, mate, because it's a big deal.
It is a big deal. It's, and I think what you just covered is a really good way to sum it up. It's not a subtle change to a project, and obviously every project's going to be different. You know, some are going to be more involved, someone's going to make sense, but as a whole, adding an extra, in this case, 35mm air gap on the outside of your entire home takes a lot of consideration. So look, we're doing as much as we can as far as producing some standard details that'll be available for exactly that, trying to simplify the process. But I'd definitely be encouraging people to be having conversations with their designers as early as possible.
Mate, I really appreciate your time coming back. We'll before we wrap it up, anything else you want to get out there?
No, look, I think that's it. I think the main message is definitely start to get ready, because this is something that is here and I believe here to stay, and for the best. So we're certainly an open door if anyone is looking for resources around the system, the sort of the science behind it, or anything in that vein. Please feel free to contact us. But I think that's covered everything.
Awesome, mate. Well, we'll put the links to your stuff and that on this podcast. You're getting more and more stockist of your product all over Australia, so there's no issues there. So Look, guys, I can't, I guess, preach for Nick's product enough. It's fantastic. We definitely won't be going back to a 19 mil or any other type of product. Reach out to Nick at Highwood Products if you're considering using the Battens. Make sure you reach out to the guys at Pro Climber if you're interested in getting more involved with their product as well. But look, as always, make sure you go to the DuaynePearce.com website to get your merch so you can continue to help us with our Level Up movement. Look, I don't think I asked you on the last podcast, Nick, but what does Level Up mean to you?
I think I lived it last week when we were down in Adelaide. I think that to me was leveling up in your life in general, but leveling up in your business. So that means, connecting with the right people, connecting with the right resources, educating, learning, and sharing was the big part of what that whole thing looked like to me. That's how I would sum it up. I mean, that's certainly what I would. That was outside looking in was how it appears, which I thought was really awesome. I think you mentioned collaboration before, and I think it's a really important thing in our industry. I think we only, if we're sharing with one another, that's the way that we get better as a whole. And I saw a lot of that down in Adelaide. So
awesome, mate.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, look, guys, if you want to continue to level up, make sure you continue to support this podcast. Like, share, subscribe, all those types of things. And we look forward to seeing you on the next one.